Good morning. Thank you, Alicia. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you. And so I know we met, some of us were here last week, but it feels like, I don't know, it feels like a time warp. In some ways, it feels like yesterday, but other ways, it feels like a year ago. A lot has happened in a week. So I hope you are well this morning. Before we jump into the ed piece talk, or the ed tech piece of it, I just thought we could just check in. Does anyone have anything on their mind that they just wanted to talk about? Yeah, feel free to take a few minutes to talk about something, process, throw out a question.
I just want to thank everyone who's put stuff in the listserv over the past week. There have been a lot of good questions. So I appreciate you guys still using that and sharing your thoughts and ideas and suggestions, because that's really helpful.
All right. Has anyone seen a lot of anxiety in the last, I know we talked a little bit about this week, but has there been any change? I've just gotten a lot of, I feel like more than normal. I've had more normal conversations. That's what's on my mind this morning. Paula.
Yeah, we've seen a huge uptick. Our students are rolling back in, and you know, there's just everything. Students that presented before all of this have sort of gone off and gotten worse. I mean, a lot of OCD. Kids that I've never seen anything in are falling apart, and so we have kids in class that are just crying, and you know, I mean, middle school kids, which usually really try to hide it. Parents are unraveled, and they're mean. So I don't know what you guys are seeing, but my teachers are exhausted. I'm tired. My administrators are, you know, everybody's kind of done already, but I guess we got to keep going.
I would echo that. I'm seeing some increased anxiety and also frustration, especially as related to technology. So if a student can't submit something and that's happening, there's just this quick frustration. And in middle school, Paula, same thing, just tears because, oh my gosh, it's going to be late and then I'm going to get in trouble and then this and then that. And so, and then parents are feeling that too. And I know we talked about this last week, but I'm really concerned about faculty because faculty are feeling like it's February.
We're having that as well. I think we've been on campus for a month, 6 weeks, actually, closer to 6 weeks. But my head is pushing for more days on campus for the kids already. And I am terrified for everyone if that happens. But just one thing I want to share about the tech piece with the kids. Our workaround for that is that if the kids do a problem, and we use Google Classroom, and they can't submit, or just as a backup anyway, they can take a picture of their work and email it to their teachers, you know, like a digital, and email it, and that way they're covered. I don't know if that would help or not, but that's just something we've done.
I can share that just at RPCS, we've had sort of the same thing with faculty stress and just increased anxiety that we're seeing in students, but also especially we've had a few classrooms that have had to stay home. And with those switches, we've noticed really increased just kind of constant worry and panic with the students. We've had to go in and do a few sessions in our lower school and middle school, with students just adjusting to those quick changes and not knowing when they're going to be able to be back in person. And we invited parents to that as well.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. All the planning we did this summer to create some sort of structure and routine, which we know is so important, just like, it's just, things change so quickly. And we are adding a day in middle school at St. Paul's, both the boys and girls school, starting in a couple of weeks. And just the point of, things are just, depending on your perspective, it's a really, really good thing or a challenging thing, but it's just a change. It's another change. So it's a really good point. All right, so we're here to talk about EdTech and ways counselors can use it to support our work. So let's maybe transition to that. And as other things come up, let's just naturally transition into those topics. Does anyone have something that they've been using that's been working really well, or something that a question they have because they're in need of something for something they're trying to do? So let's talk about that.
Hi, I'm Mary Ann, everybody. I'm the lower school counselor at Friends School. Good morning. It's nice to be here with all of you. And really not blue in color. It's just the way the light's reflecting on me. I can't seem to find a space in my office where I come out as a normal Caucasian looking person. I just look like a blue Smurf all the time. But in any case, I just wanted to say one of the things that I have been doing, because we have pods here in the lower school, so we're not allowed to go into the classrooms because of cross-contamination. So I have been asked to do some Zoom classes with yoga. So I did that yesterday, all at the same time with 3 different first grade classes. I'll be doing it with 3 fourth grade classes. And my 5th grade junior peer educators made a Google slide presentation of a book, because this is anti-bullying month. And so we're working themes of sexism and racism and, ableism and all those isms into it. And so they made a Google slide presentation where they scanned a book with all its pictures and everything. And so what we're going to do is make a voice thread of each of them reading it, and then we can send it out to the classrooms. I have no idea how that actually happens. I'm going to have my IT guy really work closely with me on that. We this summer had to spend all summer taking a program called Stride, which was, and this is a word that's really beginning to get on my nerves, in case we had to pivot to provide, here's another one, robust curriculum. And, the honest truth was, I got maybe 10% of it. So I'll probably have to go back and redo the whole thing again. But in that thing, what we learned about was things like Pear Deck and flip charts and Google Slides and whatever else. Anyway, so that's what I'm doing right now, what I know how to do and what I can do. And I'm looking to expand my skills, but frankly, I just have to do it little by little, because with this, when I get a lot of technological information presented to me at once, I just becomes mental floss, in one ear, out the other.
Thanks, Marianne. Yeah, that's something that I was trying to say thinking about when I was in the chat earlier, is like, I know we probably all did something this summer, some sort of training, and learned a lot about these cool apps. I just feel like I don't have the brain space always, or the time to like use it, unless maybe I'm planning a lesson. But like, I just feel like my schedule is just conversations, check-ins, which is a great thing. That's what I want to be doing. So like for that, like this is what I use. So it doesn't need to be fancy. But at the same time, are there other ways? So I want to hear more of what people are doing, but it also pose another question. Are there other things that we could be doing to be supporting faculty in terms of trying to encourage their use of different apps that we are aware of?
So I wanted to share that our advisory program got an overhaul this summer. The emphasis is obviously now on social emotional, more or less stability and not so much development. But I say we, it was me. I spent a good deal of time this summer taking pieces out of the curriculum that we normally use and creating an entirely new one focused on growth mindset, positive psychology, mindfulness, community building. And so less of the stop being mean to each other and like start being nice to yourself and how to manage that for the kids so that we could just start there because it's so new for everyone. So I use Google Drive for that. I have two shared folders. The old curriculum is still there if they want to draw a specific lesson from it. But then the new curriculum is, and it's not any curriculum that I found, it's just things that I add as I find pieces in those areas. So here's an activity, here's a worksheet, here's a website, whatever. I have been sharing a lot of mindfulness and self-care thoughts with the teachers as they come up. I'm trying not to overload them, so I do once a week, Monday morning, or whatever the first day of the week might be. And there is just for your personal reference, there is a meditation app called 10% Happier. And that is free for 6 months right now for educators. So, and you can set a reminder to meditate every day, which is pretty cool. I like it. They have single things, they have courses, they have, all kinds of interesting talks. So I have that for me. And I did share that information with the teachers, but I'm using a lot of Google, the suite in general with the kids. I'm using forms for surveys, like, what do you want me to do for you? What do you think of this idea? So we're doing that. And then we're going to be using Zoom shortly for like some faculty get-togethers, games maybe, and also for grade-wide games and try to get some community building going. Also, I wanted to let you know that I found in a newsletter I got the other day, it was like the 10 best focus apps. And that might be for your learning specialist, but we work so closely together that I have that bookmarked. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that in the chat for you because there were some that I'd never heard of that are pretty cool.
I just wanted to share two things. Well, first, I love the 10% Happier app. I use that as well. And one of our faculty members actually just kind of unofficially started a book club. And the first book is about anti-racism, but I also read Dan Harris's book this summer and used that to pair with the meditation app, which might be a fun idea for faculty. And the way that this book club is set up, it's really small chunks. Like the first week, the meeting is like the introduction in chapter 1, because I recognize like people don't have time right now. And so that's one thing. We reached out to all of our employees because we noticed, peak levels of frustration and stress. So we actually sent that out to every single employee in the building. And we've been using that to try and design some programming and to talk to our kind of upper administration about how people are actually feeling versus how they think they are feeling. So we're going to be rolling out some stuff in the next few weeks, including just reminding folks about like the EAP program, reminding them that we can help them find therapists, stuff like that. And the other just tech tool that I also, like, we did all this training in the summer. I did not have time to like learn about besides all the PD, then I was like, okay, wait, how do I actually use this in my classes? Didn't really have time to do that. But I did, one of our tech people did a drop-in session yesterday and demoed Pear Deck, which I think is something we're gonna start using like ASAP in our classes, just to make it more interactive. And I don't know if anyone's ever used Pear Deck, but basically you can create these interactive slides where people can answer questions and it like will populate on the screen live. So even just something as simple, like whenever we start class, we always do a check-in. I do a really silly question like, would you rather have Cheeto dust stuck under your fingernails for the rest of your life, or like fart every time you see a crush? Something ridiculous to get everyone to participate, and then just asking them how they're doing. But I think Pear Deck is a really good way to have them do that, where it can be shared with the class anonymously, but you as the teacher, you can actually see who answered what. So if you need to do any follow-up, that's really the only extra tech tool that I've used so far.
I would echo all of that good stuff about Pear Deck. I recently used it. I do grade level assemblies every other week, and I was trying to figure out how can I make this more interactive. And I used Pear Deck, and afterwards you can go back and just like Makeda said, I can see, oh, for my check-in on a scale of 1 to 10, where were you? Who said that they were on that lower end? And so that information for me as the counselor was really wonderful because I was able to follow up with individual students. You also can see if you ask questions who isn't answering, which I think is sometimes interesting to say, oh, well, I noticed that you didn't answer 4 questions. Like, is everything okay? Or how are you feeling? And it's okay to just kind of sit back, but I want to make sure that you're engaged. So love Pear Deck.
Another similar app to Pear Deck is Nearpod, which a lot of people are using as well. Similar.
Yeah, I've been using Nearpod. My name is Kim Washington. I've been using Nearpod and then just really utilizing a lot of the resources on Teacher Pay Teacher. They have, you know, wonderful lessons on social emotional learning. So I've been using some of those through Google Slide presentations, but really using the Nearpod interactive lessons. And I switched over to DoxyMe. So my students log on for their sessions with me through DoxyMe. So far, so good. You know, we've had days where there's glitches with technology, but I think that's across any platform at this point. But those are some of the resources that I've been using.
Sarah, can you, are you still here? I don't see you at the moment. Oh, okay, there you are. Can you talk about Mentimeter? I had never heard of it, so I just kind of did a Google search and I'm looking at it. And this came out the other day that the Kahoots and the Quizlet things that the teachers are using are sometimes causing the kids to shut down because they feel stupid and they're not answering quickly enough, and you know they're just melting down over these apps that we've been using because they're interactive and they're great in the classroom. So it looks like this might actually do that. Does it have the competition piece? Do you know? What do you use it for? Can you talk about that?
Well, it has. I'm proctoring a space right now. No students are in here, so I can talk. But eventually, I may have to go mute again. It has a lot of different capabilities, so it gives several options. And I would say I'm not using it to its fullest capacity right now. I primarily use it for the feedback and the survey function with regard to the feedback being anonymous. And so the students are able to do exit tickets and they're able to kind of share, you know, feedback regarding what the goals are or what they've learned. Good morning, guys. Without there being any, you know, concern about exposure or competition. And so I've really liked it, but like I said, I feel like I am not using it to its capacity because there are several different mechanisms on the platform. So it's something that you can use free and kind of, I've been using it and searching around, so I'm hoping to use it a little bit more.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I've been using, which is one of the most, I feel like, helpful, and it's starting just to catch on more, is I have a scheduler. So I have a link, people can just click on it and schedule. There's a bunch of them out there. I use one, our school is Microsoft, so I use something called Bookings, which is a Microsoft app, which automatically creates a Microsoft Teams link for the appointment. I know some people are using Calendly, or I think Google has the version of the scheduler. So there's a bunch, but if you're not using it, I'd recommend doing that. It's just really simple for anyone who wants to schedule an appointment. You don't have to go back and forth. It reads off your calendar when you're available. So that's been really helpful for me.
And with Calendly, you can actually link it to, if we primarily utilize Zoom for appointments, and so with Calendly you can link it to Zoom, and there are like 8 other things that you can link it to for appointments. So it automatically sends out a appointment link with regard to a virtual link when someone schedules a time, and it uploads into your, like our Google Calendar. It'll upload into my Google Calendar. So I love it.
Any questions about tech resources? Something that you're like, well, man, I wish I had something for this?
I have a question about, sorry, Brad. I always do that to Brad, sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just apologizing for my mom popping in. I'm in my parents' house right now.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I have a question about how note-taking. So our administration feels like Google is safe to use, the Google Docs and whatever, but we've had a couple instances where things have been shared with students. We have no idea how they were shared, like from teachers, and they've gotten access to like locker codes, or somebody got the release of information. So it hasn't been anything like confidential, but that kind of scares the bejesus out of me. And I'm just wondering what you guys use, what you think of that.
Great question.
Hi, everybody. I use Notebook. Each of my grades, I'm 9 through 12. I'm Rochelle Sullivan, by the way. I'm at Beth DeFilla. I have a notebook set up for every class. And so for like Kid Talk, for the grade advisors, I put stuff in and I gave them access to the link. And then I have kind of a private notebook that sits in the back there. But it's a pretty user-friendly platform. And we also added Schoology this year, and we do all of our teaching on Zoom. And that's it. Have a good day.
I think you might as well just call me Wilma Flintstone, because when I have meetings with kids right now, when I'm meeting with kids, I'm outside with them. I handwrite my notes and then they're locked away.
I do that as well. So I
okay, so you can be Betty Rubble. All right. But I mean, my calendar is electronic, but I also have that old-fashioned planner because I have a lot going on. I've got this job, I've got my private practice, I've got my yoga teaching at a yoga studio. I mean, I can't keep it all here on work. So I just know that the last time, now granted, this was probably about 4 years ago. I took, you know how we all have to get our ethics CEUs. And back then it was before all this had happened. So I'd be curious to see how it's changed now. But when I went through my ethics, one of the things that they said was that the woman had checked with a bunch of different online note-keeping things, and they all had their vulnerabilities. Now that's 4 years ago. That's like a lifetime ago in terms of technology, but they all had their vulnerabilities of getting hacked into. And so at that point, she said it was just best to continue that very old-fashioned prehistoric way of writing the notes, putting them in wherever you need to put them in, and lock them away every night in a drawer.
You're not alone.
Thank you.
Hi. Sorry. I can put my picture in. You're not alone. I do that also. I am now only in the lower school, but I was in the middle and the lower school. That is my biggest worry, and I think we do not, as a schools in general, pay much attention to that. I'm also seeing my kids, so we're full. We're Monday through Friday. I do every single class of mine outside because of my health. I cannot be inside, and I see every child outside. I Zoom with parents. I don't have the answer for when the weather gets bad yet, but my notes, I carry a little notebook. They're only mine. I lock it in my room. I take it back and forth. I also follow the NASW rules, and I concur with you, and I am worried. So if somebody could find out locker codes, they can find out a lot more. So I don't have the answer, but you're not by yourself on this.
I didn't mean to say that I have like private, like one-on-one notes with my students. It's just a heads up that this kid is on our radar. That's more of what because I don't have time to go to every teacher, every grade advisor. I meet with them once a week. In between, there's kids that become high flyers or kids that fall off the radar, especially during this time. I also, I talk about like my black book, because that's what we do. I would never make, I agree with you. And I think that sometimes heads of schools want a little more information than we're okay to do, or access to that stuff. So I just wanted to clarify. What's the other one? We have Wilma and Betty, and who am I? Somebody else? Because I'm pretty old school too.
Yeah, I'd like to jump in on that too. I mean, I like to toggle between the two. We have our private note book right here that you take to your administrators, and those are your private notes. But also we do have OneNote for our teachers online, where it's pretty much the overview. We want to make sure that we respect confidentiality with technology. But yeah, I mean, that notebook to me, that's pretty much, I'm a lot more free with my notes in my own handwriting, and I can take that anywhere. And I also take my computer too to different meetings, but it's almost like it's a quick reference of my own personal notes. So I kind of do a hybrid model between the two. So
I'll jump in to say, does this look familiar? That's really where a lot of my notes reside. And if I fill up a book, I go to volume 2, but I have it ready at hand. It is portable, it can go wherever I am. And when I have quick thoughts to jot down, there it is. But we also do observations, my colleague and I, of children. And those we do post on Google Docs as observations. They're not really judgmental. They're not promoting treatment or anything of that nature, but it's a record that we have, and I found it invaluable with a new guidance director this year, that he will have the benefit of some of our past observations of children. They're now a little bit older, more in middle school, that would help him better understand our population. So I think for me, the hybrid does work as well. It's been very helpful.
Something that I use is, we use Magnus at our school, a health app that our nurses, they keep all the medical records, but there's also a counseling component. We set up, our tech has set up just a counseling, something the counselors have access to, so we can keep our personal notes in there.
I just wrote that in the chat, Brad. I
Oh,
totally
did you?
agree.
Great.
Yeah. And
And
I
I,
don't put detailed notes in there, but I utilize it to kind of document who has been seen, and it's just the thing with Magnus is making sure that who has access. So
right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And something I like about that is that as kids transition from division to division, the next counselor can have access to those notes. All right, that was a good question. Thanks, Kristen. Other things we're thinking about in terms of some technology related theme, whatever.
If I could just say that, and I know this is the third time I'm talking, so I'll make this my last time. I don't know if you, Brad, if you want the conversation to go in this direction or not, so feel free to just nix it if that's the case. But, you know, I do think there is a generational piece to this technology thing as well. I think that some of my younger colleagues on the screen here probably can pick it up just like that. I think that's great. I would love to be able to pick it up just like that. So if anybody has any suggestions about what might be a good first tool for someone who's a technological turtle like myself to begin to experiment with something easy, something that's not going to, like, you know, be extremely confusing. If there is a way, if you have some suggestions of something I can start playing around with, I would be very appreciative.
Hi, Marianne. My name's Hope. So I kind of sometimes feel in the same boat because we're all so busy. It's really hard to find those tools that are quick to catch on to and quick to use. Something that I just started playing around with is called Jamboard, and I'll put a link to it in the chat. It is connected to Google, and it's basically just an online whiteboard. So you could have everyone, if you're presenting a lesson on Google Meet, or if you're presenting a lesson in person, you could have them log on to Google with their device, and it's just an online whiteboard. So you can create it ahead of time yourself. I see Alicia put it in the chat, thank you. But yeah, it's pretty fun, pretty simple, and it also has different backgrounds. And I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. Like there's not all these hidden features. Everything's laid out, so.
And it's one of those things that you can use for PDFs. Like I downloaded a PDF and then it allows you to capture it kind of as a photo and use it as a background so that you can use that for collaboration on a PDF, which is great. Kami, K-A-M-I, is another PDF thing. I don't think, Marianne, I don't think you want to start with that one because it's kind of specific, but another PDF modifier kind of thing that hooks to Google Classroom, which is really nice. You can do PDF assignments with PDFs in have kids fill them out that way in Google Classroom. And Hope, I think the difference between the whiteboard in Zoom and Jamboard is the fact that kids on a Chromebook cannot always access the whiteboard in Zoom, but they can do the Jamboard because it's a Google product. And Marianne, the only reason I know any of this is because I've been trying everything for my class. I've had time to actually play with technology, which is nice. I'm learning new things both for me and the other teachers to try to walk them through some different things. But it does take time. I'm not a tech native, so I have to play around and spend time with it.
In addition, Marianne, what I would also find, whatever program that you decide to use, it's always really good to find a mentor or somebody that, a partner that can kind of help you navigate the waters, so you don't have to sit there and go through all of these lengthy tutorials, which are useful. But if you have someone there too that's kind of savvy a little bit, I always have colleagues that are willing to share to kind of cut corners a little bit too, to make it easier for me with technology. So.
Yeah, that's a great point. We had so when I create advisory lessons, I kind of create like a skeleton, kind of like a menu, like here's some things you can think about around this theme. But I had a faculty advisor who's like super tech savvy, and she's great. She created what lesson she was going to do with that, and she's like, please share this with the other advisors as just like an example of how they can like actually actionalize it. So if you have teachers who are creating things, you could be maybe the facility, and they don't want to share it just because they don't want to just do that. But if you have their permission, I think I see us as facilitating that knowledge to other people. Who raise your hand, or I don't know, are you who on here is a Microsoft school? Yeah, I feel for us, because it is, Google in this platform has it made. There's just so many more Google friendly text apps that are just make it easier, and then to go between Microsoft, it's just harder. It doesn't work as well. So I know from on my end, there's some frustrations and on my teachers in terms of that. So if you're a Google school, count your blessings. Any other thoughts? Again, we have about 15 or so minutes left. We can completely pivot. I know, sorry, I used that word. To a different topic, not around technology. I think that's appropriate if we have other things that we want to talk about.
I wanted to share quickly an app that someone at my school introduced. I'm Jessie, I'm from Baltimore Lab School, and one of our teachers shared Book Widget, which is kind of good for just creating like fun games or matching activities. They have a lot of options, but my school is still virtual right now, so it's been really fun to do some more engaging things through Book Widget, since we can't like be in an office playing games together. But I'm also curious, we're kind of in the process of determining whether we're going to go hybrid. So it seems like a lot of you guys are already back, and I'm curious if you are doing like in-person sessions in your office at all, or I heard someone's doing outside or Zoom. So I'm just curious how counseling's working when you are back in school right now.
Great question. Who wants to jump in? I think it's all the above is probably the answer.
I was going to say, I'm on a hybrid counseling thing this year. Pretty much anywhere I can catch the kids, whether it's Zoom or outside, or pulling them out of a class when they're on campus, which is crazy. But
something that I did, because we're hybrid, and it wasn't enough time when I was on campus to, especially, I wanted them to be in class. I felt really bad about pulling them out, and I will if I need to, but so in between, we have some breaks in between classes, so I'll grab students then when I'm on campus. But I partnered with our PE teachers when we're online, because they're kind of just doing a workout on their own, and then they're checking in with the PE teacher, to ask them if I could have 10 to 15 minutes for this, to do check-ins during their block. And they were great. They said, just send me a list of times so we know who's coming in and out. And I just sent links, invitations to those students. And like this afternoon, I have just had like an hour and a half of straight check-ins with pulling kids from PE class.
So I use Calendly, which I absolutely love. And when students schedule with me, now that we're back 4 days a week, they have an option so they can check walk and talk. They can check office visit. I don't really have offices for 8th graders and for 6th graders, but I'll figure something out when that happens. Or if they're a virtual learner or it's one of our virtual days, they can check Zoom. So I like that, you know, for the confidentiality piece, if a student's comfortable walking and talking, great, they can choose that option. And if they're not, then we'll make it work in another way. But I've done a lot of walk and talks and I'm finding I'm getting so much information out of kids because we're just outside doing something and they're not staring at me in my office. So I actually want to keep doing this next year or whenever we're out of this. So walk and talk has been really good.
I just have a question. I'm Meryl at Georgetown Day School, and I wondered for people who are hybrid or in school full-time, what you're doing for students who are home, and if there are things that like, are they streaming, or are you, when you're doing a class lesson, if it's by Zoom, are you also, are they on the Zoom, or are they just doing something completely separate?
I can answer that. So when I teach my classes, they're on the Zoom and we call on them and the girls talk to them and we talk to them. So that's every single class that I teach. Sometimes they come in, sometimes they don't. I don't chase them down.
Thanks.
Yeah, at St. Paul's, we're doing concurrent teaching, so the teachers are calling the students in. You know, we use Microsoft Teams, so that they have the Teams up and on the screen, so and then calling on it. And I think we actually we had a lunch, chat and chew yesterday with our distance learning students, and the assistant head and I met with them and just kind of check in with them and see how they were doing. And they said, I think it depends on the grade. Some teachers are better at it than others. I think there's sometimes a delay to get the online portion going because they're trying to get the in-person class set up, or they're like running from classroom to classroom. But it sounds like for the most part, it was going well and better as time goes on.
Okay. Thank you.
But it's hard. I would say if your teachers are going to be doing that, they should practice it ahead of time, because the technology can be wonky to make sure it's right. The sound levels, feedback, it's hard. We have some teachers who are have medical clearance to stay at home, so they're teaching from home to students on campus, and that's difficult as well, just with the technology piece, just because there can be a lot of audio feedback. So the one thing that has worked the best is just all the students are just on their own laptop with earbuds or earphones, just kind of just having, and the teacher's on the screen rather than projecting it. So that's what we have found best so far.
Okay. Thank you.
So at St. Ursula, we're actually in school every single day. Some students in each classroom are remote, so they'll join for all classes through their laptop. And then whenever I go in to teach, I typically just work with the teacher. And we have these cameras in every single room. It's called an Ascendo camera. So it has a lens on top that you can rotate. So you can have it on you or the classroom. So students at home, it's nice because they can have the camera facing everyone else in the room. So everyone feels like, okay, we're all in the same classroom. But I typically just work with a teacher. Every single classroom set up a little bit different. So that's kind of why I really wanted to come to this PD, because I need things that connect everyone, because I felt like I was relying so heavily on PowerPoint so everyone could do it, like everyone in the room, and then everyone at home could be seeing the same thing and learning the same thing. So at least with these tools, everyone can be connected. It's definitely interesting to do hybrid sometimes.
I will say that part of our problem is that the space needed to have kids in a classroom, we're in banquet rooms. We're in, huge spaces. And so we have to have both a conference mic for the kids on Zoom to be able to hear, and they still only hear the students in the front of the room when they ask questions. So I usually end up repeating the questions, and also voice amplifiers. So I feel like a motivational speaker sometimes. I've got my voice amplifier and I'm like, how's everybody doing today? I mean, it's insanity. It's crazy.
Yeah, along the same line, and something that we got an email about this summer and it didn't really cross any of our minds in the moment, was we have some students that have hearing difficulties. And so, you know, with the masks, it just makes it much worse, and because they can't read lips, and then, you know, it's just all those things. So we've got some microphone projection, you know, it comes with like a speaker, and then it's like a, you know, a headset. And that's worked pretty well. I don't know if anyone else has had that issue.
Yeah, we have a couple hearing impaired students at our school as well, and those teachers were given a face shield, so a clear face shield, but then they have to stay in the very front of the room. So that's kind of been, okay, we'll place that student in the front so they're closest to the teacher, they could still read their lips, and then they can take their mask on and off. The teacher can whenever they need to.
The other problem is the student articulation. For students who have articulation problems, it's way more difficult with the mask.
Mm-hmm. So we have about 8 minutes. We can keep going, or we can end. Does anyone have anything else that they want to say? Any questions, feedback, things that they're just thinking about? It can be completely unrelated to what we've talked about.
I did send out yesterday a survey, a Google form for your best times to meet for our informal gatherings, not through Ames, just, you know, when we can. If you did not get that and you'd like to, please put it in the chat or email me if you have my email address. And if you're not on our listserv, let us know and we will get you on that if you'd like to be.
Yeah, you just read my mind, Kristen. I was just going to say the same thing. Another thing, and I can also, if you are on the listserv, I sent that out a couple weeks ago. I'm hosting some independent school counselors from across the country have kind of come together in a loosely formatted, networked way, and there are different series of networking Zoom calls. So this afternoon, I'm hosting a middle school one. So if you're a middle school counselor or interested in what middle school counselors are thinking, please join us. It's at 3 o'clock. I'm gonna put it in right now. Cool. Anything else? And here's a question. Anything? Alicia and I were kind of just chatting back and forth of future topics that we would want to have officially through Ames, and it could be something casual like this, or we could get a you know, an expert in an area to come present something to us. So are there any topics? One thing that from hearing people is how to support faculty. So I think we'll do something on that. So anything other things that you're interested in, topics, questions that we could frame in a more official workshop roundtable?
Hey, Brad, I was going to say, I'd like to know, I really feel like it's important that we are visible with all of our students. We're K through 12 at Gerstel Academy. And I was wondering what everyone else does just to kind of get out and be present with the students to, you know, just develop that that comfortableness with the kids. And what are some, other than going out and just attending those unstructured times in the middle of classes, but You guys doing it like any programs, any Zoom programs, just to kind of offer different kinds of programs. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there. I don't know. Maybe in the future.
Okay. Anyone have any quick thoughts? Or maybe that's a great topic, like student-centered
Not
strategy.
for now, but for
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hear you. Maybe someone has a quick thing that they could share before we go, but I think something around like what I'm hearing, like student-centered like practices and ways to just get the best bang for the buck and just really do what we love to do.
I'm going to lunches and breaks because they're outside and I can catch large groups. And if anybody needs me, we can, go for a walk.
Mm-hmm.
And also I have Zoom lunches with the kids that are at home. I have 1 grade a day.
With students being in the building, so this is only if you're hybrid or if you're at your school building, I've noticed I have to be outside for arrival and dismissal duty because we have basically a 45-minute long procedure that we slowly bring students in and out. So there isn't crossing of paths, but that has been huge. Like being able to wave to parents, being able to say good morning, say, have a great night, have a great weekend. And I can talk to so many kids at that time. Like, I know that's not like a counselor direct duty, but it's still so amazing to build the connections. And then parents can come up to you and say, hey, can we talk later? And just, it's a good time.
All right, y'all, it's Thursday, 8:30 a.m. We have a rest of today and then tomorrow, and then it's the weekend. It's almost Friday, so we got this. We can do it. So keep it up. Kristen sent out that survey. We'll have our next, a meeting through the independent school counselors probably in probably the next couple of weeks. Kristen, is that what you're thinking? We'll find a time that, based on the survey data, that works well. So we'll be meeting again. I'll be in touch with Alicia about setting up another one of these around one of those themes that we talked about. So if you have any questions, concerns, please reach out. I'm happy to be a resource. I know a lot of us are, so keep using the listserv, or if you don't want to put it out to the whole group, feel free to email individually. Thank you. Great to see you, and I'll hopefully see you soon.